Tēnā koutou katoa. I will just share quickly. Great, that should be coming through. I've got lots of fun robots to show people tonight, so I get the fun bit right at the end. We're a company about 2 years old, and we work as a central server platform that connects and coordinates remote robots. Now, the interesting thing is the types of robots we focus on are generally categorized as mobile robots, and you'll see some examples. There's a little intro video which basically brings to life some of the robots that have actually been commercialized in the last few years. So there are a range of different formats, as you can see. Most of these are fully autonomous and connect to some form of central system. And this comes from a range of countries from the US, China, India, all over the world. So this is just showing the types of capabilities that robots are starting to have. Now, what we say to people is robots are here. It's not that robots are coming. A lot of these robots have been emerging over the last 5 years, and similar to e-learning and those types of systems, what suddenly happened is you basically have a massive acceleration of adoption of robotics, specifically because of some pain points. And the reason that these robots are actually being adopted so quickly is the technology has actually already matured. These robots are very capable already. The price point has come down significantly in the last few years. So they're actually accessible, but instead of being a nice to have for a hospital to evaluate a robot, it suddenly becomes an essential item. So if you look at what are the challenges around COVID-19 and the types of things that robots could potentially tackle, you've got things like limits on the PPE, the personal protection equipment. So doctors changing out of that equipment, having to throw it away, having to get new gear every time they see a patient is a real problem. Exposing healthy workers to sick patients or putting them into unsterilized environments is a massive problem. So if you can avoid the human having to go into that unsterile environment, that would be a massive benefit. You've got quality and consistency of cleaning. So you've got humans going in and doing the cleaning, and you're going to get varied level of consistency in those environments. So you are exposing potential risks around that consistency that's taking place. And also just a general shortage of worker that's willing to work in those types of conditions, nurses, doctors, and those types of things. So I'm just going to show a few really great examples of where robots are actually getting massive, rapid adoption. We've seen robotics companies go through their re-evaluation events. We have cleaning robotics companies that have refitted their robot for ultraviolet. We've got a range of these companies are very rapidly making changes to produce robots now that are well suited to fight. So the ultraviolet sterilization, effectively you've got cleaning staff with a mobile app. They can call a robot to a room. The robot can communicate with lifts, get itself to that room, and it has a set procedure to sterilize that room. And so there's a full log and record of how long the sterilization took place to actually clean that room. So there's a full audit trail, high levels of consistency, and obviously humans don't have to be in the room when that UV sterilization is actually taking place. This is an example in India where they've refitted some pretty basic looking robots, but they do the job. They actually deliver food and essential items to sick patients. You can see the one on the right has the most advanced sterilization possible. They probably wrapped it in some cling wrap. It's basically how they deal with these innovative solutions to keep and clean these robots at every phase. So that was pretty cool to see. This is an example in China where they've retrofitted spraying robots that can go into public spaces. So these robots, they're smaller form factors that go into subway, on the actual subway systems. The larger formats can go around the streets, and there's some formats that can go inside buildings as well to sterilize those environments. And again, completely unmanned. They can build maps of the environment and actually carry out missions on their own, or there is technology to remotely control them over 4G and 5G so that humans don't have to be close by them when they're actually carrying out these tasks. This is a simple example of a robot in Italy where the doctors are actually controlling, they're teleoperating a robot that goes into a room to actually talk to a patient. So there might be a very short conversation just to go in and check on a patient, but if a doctor has to go in with protective gear, again, it puts them at risk. They have to change their gear, etc. So this robot can go in and actually interact with the patient and feel slightly more human than somebody bringing a Zoom screen in at the end of the day. And plus it can actually move around on its own, so somebody doesn't need to handle that equipment. The company on the right is a company called UBTech. It's actually one of the lesser known, but one of the largest robotics companies in the world. And they produced this robot, which was originally used in public spaces like shopping malls and things like that. And they have just refitted heat sensors, thermal cameras, so that this unit can basically be remotely controlled, plus actually go around spaces such as airports and actually track thermal, people's temperatures. So, in airports, you didn't actually see as many as you should. I was traveling just before a lot of the lockdowns took place. At best, you'd have one camera when you walked past the security gate, whereas these can now be deployed in a much wider environment to actually track people with temperature issues. Of course, with this type of technology comes the problem of personal private data. So obviously there's going to be lots of debate around how we implement these. And I think we all know that COVID-19 is now not going away. It's something that'll be with us for a long time. There's going to be at least 2 years of how do we deal with this crisis? How do we track people? So these technologies, even though they've been adopted very rapidly into these environments to deal with the crisis short term, similar to these other technologies, they're going to be around probably forever because people will realize their usefulness. The technology is now being applied to this type of process. But with that comes concerns around how they will deal with privacy and those types of issues. Cleaning robots. This is a robot that's deployed in places like Changi Airport. Typically, large airports can have up to 7 or 8 of these robots that live in a docking station. These cleaning robots are scrubbers, so they can actually have liquids washing the floor. They're completely unmanned. Even their washing cycles they can do on their own. So they go back to their docking station, dump the dirty water, recycle clean water, flush the system out, and you can remotely see the age of the scrubber, if there's any maintenance required. And the objective here is to really have these scrubbers operating for weeks without any human intervention. Plus the fact that, again, you get really great consistency. Once the scrubber has finished its task, anyone responsible for the cleaning gets a report, can pop into an email. You can see a PDF document, including the floor plan of the airport, exactly what got cleaned last night. You can see hotspots of maybe where there was some tables and chairs that got left out and the scrubber couldn't actually get to that location. So you get highly accurate data on where specific problems are, and then you can send a human workforce to go and solve some of those challenges. Outdoor cleaning is a category. Last mile delivery. Neuro is actually the CEO, is originally a Kiwi. They raised over $1 billion as well out of SoftBank. They now have licenses to operate in California, Arizona, a number of US states, and they're rolling out with some of the big supermarkets. So this bus basically arrives with your groceries completely unmanned. You have a code or an app, you press a button, it'll pop open, you can take your groceries out, it can then go back to the depot, and then they can re-sterilize the device. So no human contact, no drivers required, fully autonomous. And again, the level of R&D that goes into these types of robotics is just immense in terms of the form factors and remote management and safety systems and those types of things. So one thing I did want to promote, which is something our company has been championing, is we are busy building this website, covid19robots.org. It is designed as an unbranded, from a company perspective, website where we're actually listing robotic companies that are helping the COVID-19 fight. So if you know of any robotics companies that are involved in the industry and want to list, if they go to this website, they can actually register their business. And for us, what we're doing is promoting this to hospitals, public spaces, old age homes, all of these different categories, and saying to people, if you want to get access to some of these solutions, here's a short list of a whole bunch of companies that can get you started really quickly. Because a lot of the problem, unlike Zoom technology, everyone knew where to find Zoom. At the moment, if you're a hospital, you don't really know where to start. You don't know where to go to actually find robots that can help. So this website's been set up specifically to solve that problem, to get people to have access to robots that can help. Thank you very much.